time, we're streaming on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, CNN, BBC. Alrighty. On Instagram, I guess it's just gonna be you, Andris. So keep smiling and nodding. But looks like for every other channel, we're live. Alrighty. Hi everyone, my name is Raimonds. Welcome to Vilnius Founders very special Latvian edition. We have amazing guests from Latvia tonight, even ambassador of Latvian Embassy to Lithuania. Thank you very much for coming. And without further ado, we have an amazing panel. We're going to talk about startups, investing, and I'm just going to get started with Annija, the CEO of TechChill, Egita, the CEO of Outlast Ventures, Andris, the CEO or partner, how do you? Let's say CEOs of Change Ventures, and Raimonds, CEO of BADideas.fund. Thank you very much, guys, for coming. Guys, and after the panel, we're also going to have Q&A with Rollins, the CEO of BADiDs. Where's Rollins? Hi, Rollins. So BADiDs, TechChill, BADideas.fund, and Outlast are sponsoring drinks. So guys, say thank you. Alrighty. Oh, it's good to see you here. I'm excited. So maybe we can get started from one of the initiators of this beautiful evening, from Annija from TechChill. Maybe you can tell us a little bit how TechChill got started, what's the idea behind it, and why all the Lithuanians here should come.
Hey guys, I'm Annie. So actually I will start with how I got here. So Eddie, when he comes to Riga, he just pops into my office and always kind of, okay, what's happening? What can we do together? So we just had an idea. Let's put a date in a calendar and then figure out all the rest. So thank you, Eddie. He's definitely one of the initiators. His energy is awesome, and I love the YOLO attitude. I had to learn more of that from you, to be honest. But so great to see this crowd here. Just for me to understand better who am I talking to, who am I looking at. So please raise your hand if you are a founder. How many founders are here? Okay, it looks like most of the crowd. If you are an investor, work for the VC. Okay, few, awesome. And community builders, maybe? Great. And the last question, how many of you have been to TechChill in Riga? Perfect. So the rest of you will also hopefully attend in a few months. Yes, so shortly about TechChill. TechChill was founded 15 years ago by a small group of people who just wanted to hang around and talk about tech and innovations. And one of these person who founded TechChill is here. That's Andris. So if you want to know more about history and about how it started in the cafes or by the beer, he's definitely the person. But yeah, so our mission is super simple, and to be honest, it has not changed through all these 15 years, is to help Latvian Baltic startups to grow, to help them succeed, to bring Baltic word in the world. So we do that by, of course, our flagship event in Riga, which has grown and quite big. Well, it's like, maybe it's big for Baltic, it still feels small for us because it's small enough that you meet these people in a gateways and stuff. But what's interesting for me, so we did a couple of years, quite a big event in Italy, in Milan, and it brought me so many insights to hearing from South Europeans about the Baltics. So only kind of traveling more far and meeting more people and seeing kind of perspective, they are looking at the Baltics as a brand. So it kind of sometimes we don't see that much good in ourselves as people from far away. So in this kind of, I always encourage to travel, meet new people, and ask them how are they doing. So that's what we're doing. We're going around and hosting events in Helsinki. Last year we did in San Francisco. We just went to Kiev to help our Ukrainian friends and ecosystem to grow. This is kind of just a few things about TechChill. Did I answer the question?
And what are the big things coming to TechChill this year? Like how many investors are coming? What are exciting things planned for startups?
So TechChill is happening at the end of March. I would love to see you all there. It's 3 full days with many things happening. Couple of stages, of course, with the great content. We are focusing always at startup founder stories, and a lot of investments tell about the opportunities, about insights. But one of the things that is very important at TechChill, and what we have heard from the founders, very many great feedbacks, is our pitch competition. And I don't know, should I be in a camera for stream or not? I have this secret unpublished announcement to make. So top 20 semi-finalists this year will compete for the potential investment for altogether for 1 million. And this is very big news for TechChill. It's for the first time. And it's by the funds that believe in the Baltic startup future. So altogether, it's Outlast, represented by Egita, and also it's by BADideas, and then a couple of first pick Andris. That's right.
As well.
Yes, and of course first pick Purpose Tech and Build It. So there's actually an opportunity to get the investment and grow your company, and of course there's a cash prizes and other cool things. But I have heard from the founders that one of their kind of biggest benefit coming to TechChill was the experience of the pitch competition, because we have great mentorships, we have online sessions, on-site boot camp, and all the kind of stage opportunity to show themselves and stuff like that.
Thanks so much, Annija. Andris, maybe you as a founder, the OG of TechChill, could also share some tips for maybe startups that are going for a first time. How can they get the most out of this conference?
Yeah, so I think it's like any conference, any event, you want to prepare. So like go and figure out who you want to meet, reach out before, set up a schedule. It's like classic stuff, and it's the same at TechChill. We have a platform where you can see who's coming, and scheduling time ahead is the best thing. But the other part is simply be open to serendipity, right? So we deliberately at TechChill, we've capped the size of the event so that it is small enough that you do bump into people, and so being open to meeting people and having someone introduce you to someone else who happens to be the person you might want to meet is another good mindset thing to think about when you're coming.
Go to all the side events and party.
Yes, that too. Yeah.
Thank you. Egita, maybe we can kick off the fundraising section with you. So where do you see capital going this year? What advice would you have for startups that are starting to fundraise? Which startups do you see raising easier, or which are raising harder?
You gave me all the easy questions, right? Oh wow, that's a very broad question. I need to figure out where to start. So what we are looking for? I will start from that. So Outlast, we are fund based in Riga. We also have 2 partners in Stockholm. So we have a Nordic connection. So we look for founders in Baltics and in Nordics. We look for early stage founders, preferably software related, something that can easily scale. We don't have specific industries. Of course, everyone now is building everything with AI. So I think that's something that we're definitely looking into. But then again, for example, we have invested in edtech, in health tech. And I think one thing that stays the same no matter what is the trend is actually solving the problem of someone. And building a product that actually is needed for clients. And I think this is something that if you're starting to fundraise, of course, there can be different strategies, but I think for the funds and for us as well, when we look at it, it's the traction. Well, I think nothing can really beat the traction if you can find someone who has used your product, who has paid for your product, or at least is willing to pay. So there can be different stages. And I think that's kind of the main, and I see there's like, the AI trends, and it's going, there are predictions that everything will fall this year. There are predictions that it will grow. But I think building the product that people need and the companies need actually is one of the key things that should stay, and that can survive any trends.
Awesome, thank you. Raimonds, do you want to add to the same question?
Yes,
There you go.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Raimonds. I'm wearing two hats. I'm a founder and now turned investor. I've done some 3 startups and gone through 500 startups in Silicon Valley and exited, and now building a VC. So it's fun to see both sides. And like I was thinking about this. We were actually in Kiev not long ago with TechChill and talking to founders. I saw the same pattern as you see everywhere across Baltics. No capital being an exception. That many of the cases, the ideas that we as founders are working on are just too unambitious, and what that does is actually makes building a startup even harder than it would be if it was an ridiculously audacious goal, because an audacious, ridiculously big goal is what attracts like big study, talent, funding. Building a startup is hard enough, so you want to have a big goal that makes it worthwhile while you're spending so much sleepless nights on it. Worthwhile. So that would be my first tip. Work on big ideas.
Any more tips?
Plenty. Oh, when you go to a conference, like always take your badge and tie a little knot so that the person that you're talking to is not looking at like down, but it's easier for them to like see who is that talking to.
That's very practical too. Thank you. Andris, so since we're back to the conference conversation, obviously you've been to so many conferences, Web Summit and TechChill. What helps founders, make a lasting impression and get that second meeting? Maybe there's a microphone right here. Let's see. Does it work? Hello?
It does work.
Sounds like it.
Hello? Yeah. Maybe we'll take this one.
All right, this works. So I think the number one thing is energy. Like when I meet you first, I want to feel like you're bouncing out of the room, right? Because it's so hard to build a very, very, very big company that you need a ton of energy. So that's really one of the things that is the first impression point. If you're not really clearly passionate, energetic, and really into what you're telling me, you're not going to survive the fact that 100 investors will tell you no, 100 customers will tell you this is useless, they don't want to buy it, et cetera, et cetera. A bunch of employees will leave, all sorts of bad things will happen along the way. You have to have that energy that builds the resilience to really go all the way to build something big, right? So I think that's for me one of the really important things. And there are certain people for whom that comes completely naturally, right? So you've all met the natural salespeople that are super energetic and everything. But even if you're not that person, you can turn it on. You can practice to be, much more present, bring much more energy to a conversation. But I think that's really important for an investor. And that's hard in a conference setting because you have to have that on for like 2 days nonstop, right? So don't have 5 days of drinking before the conference so you're super tired, right? But bring energy. I would say that's the number one thing.
Awesome, thank you. Egita, now you're obviously now in Lithuania, but maybe some early stage first-time founders would have like fears or would not know how to reach Latvian founders. Maybe contact you. Do you see any burdens? Are you investing in Lithuanian founders? Have you invested already?
Do you have any tips how they can reach you better?
We haven't yet invested in Lithuanian founder or team, not yet. So I'm looking at all of you, and hopefully one of you will be our first investment in Lithuania.
How much cash do you have on you today?
Not a lot, a couple of millions,
All right.
tens of millions. But we have looked at the companies in Lithuania. We are looking at Latvia and Estonia, so everywhere. The question is how to reach us. Through events, through connections, and I think now, our countries and ecosystems are super connected. I think it doesn't even apply only to us, it also applies to every other investor. There's quite a lot of incoming, information through LinkedIn, through different pitch events and stuff like that. I think the best way for any investor and also for us, if you can find a common connection that can recommend you, that just works. In reality, you can also reach, if you can, for example, ping me on LinkedIn and say, I was at this Vilnius Founders event, I saw you talking, and I actually saw you in real life, and I'm connecting with you, and I would love to talk to you. I would respond because I have a real life connection with you as well. And I think finding this kind of connection is key. But there's also some Lithuanian funds that are also looking at the ecosystem. We're always friends with them. They sometimes also recommend some startups to us. So I think use your own ecosystem to reach, to kind of through them, reach also in a broader ecosystem. That's it, I guess. I don't know.
So most important, come to Vilnius Founders meetups and you will find investors. So Annija, let's switch to AI. Everyone is talking, is AI hype or not? How much of AI hype we're going to have in TechChill this year? How is it? Is it important for TechChill, do you think?
So what we do with when we choose whom to put on the stage, what to kind of highlight, it's always based on the trends and on the hype, what happens in the market. So of course, as Egita said, well, we invest in tech and also in TechChill, to be honest. But in startups, then we are also looking at in AI startups. It's definitely one of the main tracks.
Awesome. Raimonds, are you investing actively in AI startups? What's your take on is AI hype?
Say no, you're not investing.
Yeah, AI I saw last year, right? I was just trying to list all of the Lithuanian startups we have invested. It's quite a bunch. Just to give you some context, we've been, it's not even a pan-Baltic thing that BADideas.fund is. It's 20 countries, 250 unicorn startup builders that are coming together to back startups. So it's founders investing in founders. And then we have folks from NordVPN, Vinted, Oxylabs, and the likes, and Uber, Shopify, Dropbox, Vimeo, Scale AI, and the likes, who are part of the community from 20 countries. So Lithuania, I think it's what is it? TechChill, Salesforce. Frank, do we have Frank here? Yeah, we have Lilado, we have Tingit, and I think I've forgotten a few others. So we have quite a bunch that we have invested. So, well, that was the question. Approach a BADideas member to get funding. I think that's the best path. But when it comes to focus for investing or some trends, I think we are a bit safe compared to where. What's happening in SF. When you go to San Francisco, it's 90% of the bandwidth for investors is just AI. You're not doing pure AI, just go somewhere else. You're not welcome. We are not even going to entertain what you're up to. And that's huge change, even if it's was a great company some 5 years ago that was approaching, they would get the meeting. Now they can't get the meeting just because everyone's eyeing AI. I think we are a bit safer in that regard. But anyway, you need to get into the world stage, right? As you scale. So one thing that comes to mind is whenever I go back to Silicon Valley, the vibe is, oh my God, the triple, double. That was so last year. The triple growth year on year. For 2 years, triple growth, then double growth was the bear what was the kind of norm, right? That's what landed you a good meeting with a top investor. Nowadays, it's it's such a mass startup. If you are hitting just that, the quality bar has become higher, and everyone's working 70-hour weeks and feeling the pressure that you can't sit and relax. So yeah, the pressure is on. So I don't know what's the answer, but like working hard is I guess one of them. But industries, I think it's very easy to just list all of the 100+ unicorns, decacorns that have been born over the last decades. They were all born pre-AI age. They are ripe for disruption. Just go with one of them.
Awesome, thank you. Andris, if I remember correctly, you had a bit more skeptical views towards AI. Maybe you care to share them? Like, are we in a bubble of AI?
Yeah, sure. So I sometimes call myself an AI skeptic. Indeed, I think I think there will be. So, firstly, I do think there will be fallout from the investment in the foundational model business, and that will affect others. I do actually expect that potentially to happen late this year, maybe next year. And so in some sense, what's happened actually in the last year is an amazing amount of VC money has been deployed, but much more so than previously, it's been deployed by a smaller number of funds in a much smaller number of companies. So much larger investments in a very small number of companies, mostly in the Valley, foundational models and so forth. Unfortunately, everyone here will get affected if that bubble bursts, which I am somewhat pessimistic that it will burst at some point. And the question is how big. The flip side of that, the good news is clearly AI will impact a ton of industries in all sorts of ways. And the best way for you to defend yourself is do what Egita said, is go find a real problem where you can bring a real solution, real customers, real users. And there are many problems, right, that will be addressed, solved, fixed, changed by AI. So for example, in Latvia, we have a bunch of investments in robotics startups. So the robotics industry is itself being significantly changed by AI. It's a second or third order effect. So there will be massive impact. I think the AI skeptic in me is the simple business where you wrap something simple around an LLM is not going to survive in the long term. Those will get competed away, but there are many opportunities. You just need to dig a layer deeper, right?
Yeah, well, let's hope we find that layer. Egita, maybe you want to add on this AI topic? I guess not to beat a dead horse, but do you have a thesis on LLMs, foundational models, or AI investing in general?
No, I guess I will not say anything different that Andris already said, but I think like coming back to, it's the traction. It's like at the end of the day, startups are businesses. You need to make money. AI is just the way how you do it. It doesn't cancel the way, like you can use AI to build an edtech startup. You can use AI to build a robotics startup. It's just a means to an end, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, since we're with you, the microphone is with you, maybe we can continue. We are living in a very turbulent times. It seems like there's now news coming out every day, even over a weekend, that another intervention came by one or another country. Are you taking these risks into account when you're investing? Are you thinking about it when you're looking and evaluating new startups? All the geopolitical, let's call it risks?
Well, the easy answer, I guess, is yes. We're definitely thinking about it.
Great.
Yeah, not sure I can come up with a very smart answer. Of course, that's something I think everyone is thinking about it. But I think the biggest issue is there's a huge uncertainty because no one really knows. And then how do you deal with it? And of course, but you know what always keeps in mind, you never know what can happen. You can anticipate something, you can be sure of those risks and mitigate those risks. You never know what else can happen. But then again, every crisis is a very good opportunity for startups to figure out something, how to solve another problem. So in sense of the business, might not be good for the humankind, but I think for the businesses, well, there's a lot of opportunities with every crisis.
Yeah, thank you. Andris?
Yeah, so let me comment on that. So I actually think there's zero impact on the startup community from, quote, geopolitical risk, the war Russia is waging on Ukraine, or anything else. I've seen, one of our companies, Raimonds, raised a $60 million round last summer. None of the investors asked about risk. And they have manufacturing in Riga, right? So none of the investors asked about risk locally, war, blah, 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 blah. So I really don't think that's a problem in our industry. If you're a real estate investor, different story, right? But in startups, I don't see a problem at all. And the flip side is defense tech, and probably some of you here are in the defense tech space. There are lots of opportunities, and actually I know some of the world's biggest defense tech startups, biggest names, are coming to the Baltics and saying, hey, we think this is an amazing place to look for companies, look for investment, look for opportunities, look for tests, and be able to build the frontier of defense tech because of your location. So I actually think, in that sense, for the startup community at least, this is not downside, it's maybe even upside.
Thanks, Andris. Raimonds?
I think you can look at Ukraine as a frontier, or what happened, and to the ecosystem. I think it would be impacted, and it was an interesting tension that I felt when talking. We have actually quite a few, some 5+ portfolio companies in Ukraine. One of them is Fuel Finance, YC founder, and great team, CFO, AI CFO, sort of product. We invested 4 months after the invasion, and the bet was, well, founders are a resilient bunch, they'll figure it out, right? So, like, out of all of the risks that could go wrong, like, geopolitics is one of them, but like, wow, they'll figure it out. So probably there are other ways how they could go belly up as a company. So I think that's what's the resilience is one thing. And just to paint the picture, I was in Reese Pictures' office in Kiev. They are essentially dominating whole of Hollywood. So if there is a Jedi movie or any other blockbuster movie, they would be the AI voice, the synthetic voice that Hollywood trusts. And they are a team out of Ukraine. So what they have in their apartment office is a Starlink 2, actually, just as backups. They have a gas heater, and they have a gas line generator. So heating, electricity, internet, with backups, and just next to a building that has been bombed like 20 times over a year. So that's like the kind of teams we invest in, and I think that's also something that you would see in other regions as well. The tension I was mentioned was I felt really interesting that in Kiev, when you talk to founders, it goes in 2 groups. One group, like many founders, have turned to defense tech. That's their calling. If they're going to apply their skill set, it's going to be in killing more Russians. And when it comes to others, like who want to build maybe outside of that realm, there is a little bit of tension. How can you call yourself a patriot if you are not in defense tech? And the others would be saying, like, it's hard enough to build a startup. Why are you on my against me? So you have this bit tension there. But I would say that there will be more pull towards defense tech startup building from the ecosystems in all of the region if there is a scenario like that playing out.
Thank you very much. So Annija, you mentioned, and we also already talked about it, that you went to Kiev this year with TechChill. So how did that go? What did you do there? Are we going to have a lot more Ukrainian startups in TechChill in Riga this year?
Actually, that's kind of our thought, and you can even say a dream like 2 years ago to go and help these startups in Ukraine, or even we did a lot of other initiatives early on in a couple of months of in the first invasion 3 more years ago. But yeah, it took us time to figure out how to do it, and so. My experience is that not always I can put on a paper the right reasons why to do something, but I feel in my guts that you have to do it. And at the end, I figure out that it was like worth even more than I could imagine. So, and now I have this feeling that not only we can actually relate a lot to this one of our, the main enemy, we all kind of believe that, and we know by our parents and grandparents how it went, but also I see that the future, our colliding together, working these two ecosystems of the Baltics and Ukrainians will definitely bring us as Baltic people in Baltics a lot of benefits. So maybe I don't know even what kind, but one of the things that they have so first they always, for many years, they have had a strong IT tech talent pool. Now they definitely have so much more know-how than all of us combining, because they have been through these problems, practical problems, as Starlink and whatever gas situations that we don't even know how to survive it. So this definitely, they have a playbook, guys, like in this situation, you do that and you do this. So this is one, but also, you know that it's a huge market. It's like, we definitely want to step over a foot in the doors now. Now they are open, they really kind of welcome us. And this is one of the reasons that I felt, so we had to go there. And it was quite interesting how to onboard 20 plus startups and more people from all around, and actually to get them there, you know, the buses, the trains and flights and come together. So that was kind of, in my...
Are you going to do it again next year?
We are, yes, so if you have any ideas to help us, yes, we want to do it. It's pretty complicated, to be honest, in all the ways, but we're looking to that. And at the end of March, TechChill Riga, we're going to have a delegation of 20 startups. We picked them, we chose them, we trained them. So they have met these amazing investors from the Baltics, from San Francisco. So they already have connections. So the delegation is coming to Riga together with some community builders. So yeah, if you want to meet, then it's a place.
Awesome, thank you. Egita, now let's go into the last section of this beautiful panel tonight. So it is the beginning of the year of 2026. Maybe let's finish this with making like a bold resolution for the Baltic startups. So we would all have more unicorns and more successful startup founders. I hope you're ready. Maybe. Or if not ready, maybe we can start with Andris or Raimonds. So guys, everyone, let's think of one wish, one resolution, one recommendation for the Baltic founders. How can we have more unicorns in Latvia, Lithuania, also Estonia? We could have a few more.
I can start, actually. I will steal something from Raimonds. I think one thing that he talked before about the ambition. And I think that's definitely something that each of us can learn or teach them yourself, that the ambition is the key. Like you can, if you build a startup, I think all of us said at some point that if you're building a startup, you're crazy enough, that you have to have persistence, you have to think outside of the box, and you have to think bigger than you're actually thinking now. It's like challenging yourself to be and build one step higher or further, or whatever you're thinking now. Let's say it's not good enough. Think bigger.
Think bigger, steal ambition from Raimonds. Andris?
Yeah, so I'm going to take the same thing, but even be more specific. Don't build something for the local market, and don't build it for Latvia, don't build it for Estonia. Build it for a big market and do that first. So The biggest mistake we've seen is founders saying, well, it's easy for me to get this Lithuanian company that I know someone, I can get this quick pilot and I can prove something. That's good, but you will be 5 steps or even 10 steps ahead if you do something much harder, which is find someone in Germany, France, Spain, USA, Australia, wherever, a much bigger market, who you don't know, who's much harder to reach, and convince them to go. That's a much better story. Go for it.
Thank you. Raimonds?
A couple of months ago, I was in Copenhagen, listening in on Anton from Lovable talk on how he made it such a success story. And one of the best questions from the audience was, well, if you were in our shoes, how would you kill Lovable? And he had a fantastic answer. Yeah, he basically said, you have 2 choices. One option is just focus on such a ridiculously, illogically narrow customer or niche that a big competitor of yours is already focused. What you can do is you can't replicate the Lovable story. Oh, it had this kind of hockey stick growth. You can't replay it. It has been replayed. It doesn't work that way. You have to find a different way. So one is just focus on such a ridiculously economically unviable small niche that you just so perfectly can capture, and then you can use it as springboard to the next and next. And the second one is, which I liked even more, is imagine the future. Too few people are doing that. We are not wired to think exponentially in a compounding way. We are like thinking more linearly. So you would have to a little bit force yourself to think in 12, 18 months, if this keeps growing like it is at the same rate in all facets of economy, what does the future look like or the problem space you are looking at? It certainly should not look like today. So whatever you're building is probably going to be useless for today's market. You're not going to make money, but you're not building for today. You're building for something that is starting to appear in 12 months. And when that happens, you are first one off to the race, and everyone else is in your dust.
Awesome. That's a great spot to finish a beautiful panel. Everyone, hi. Please say thank you. Thank you very much, guys. We're going to have 5 minutes break, maybe 10 minutes. Go grab a drink. Thanks again to our beautiful sponsors, Birdie Chat, TechChill, BADideas.fund, and Outlast Fund. Thank you. Grab a drink, guys.
Oh, that was fun. That was cool.
Oh, thank you. My sweaty hand.
I think we have a meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
Guys, we're going to be back in a minute.
As a founder, I found myself doing more and more communication on personal chat apps. And so like it started out, some investors reach out and be like, hey, can I get a quick update on this and that? Then the board chat came, and we had like a board chat on some of the chat apps. And so there came a moment when I was like closing multi-million deals on these chat apps, and all the while I was getting messages from friends and family literally on that same app. And so I remember vividly, I had this insane deal. I was closing it, and like I got like memes from like friends in the chat next door. And as I'm replying to those memes, I really hope I don't send anything stupid to the other chat. And so I've always been paranoid about saying the wrong thing to the wrong people. And then the fact that we now use, literally apps like WhatsApp and Telegram and Signal for work and for personal conversations, it is just like, the paranoia, guy in me is like, bing, it's just not supposed to be that way. And so BADideas aims to solve that issue. So we think that, apps like WhatsApp are great for friends and family, but there should be something for work. We think that Slack is great for team communication, but when you want to chat with someone that's outside of your team, and if you do that constantly, you either send them messages on email, or those messages start to fall into personal chat apps like WhatsApp. And so we think that there exists a whole category in between that's completely not built out, and we're building this with BADideas. So that's where the idea comes from. So yeah, that's a bit of a background.
Well, since we're starting with background, maybe also let's just dive straight away into your previous startup, Annija. Maybe you can tell a little bit about it. And it was a fintech startup in the banking sector. How did you manage to get into this very enterprisey, very competitive industry?
Yeah, so my previous startup, Nordigan, we started in 2016. We were two co-founders. By the time we got acquired in 2022, we were 70 people. And what the company was doing back then was there were like 6,000 banks in Europe. All of them had exposed their APIs to a new banking regulation. And we were among the few companies in Europe that were aggregating those APIs. And so if you're a developer, you want to connect to bank APIs. Instead of having to connect to like thousands of APIs yourself, you can plug into Nordigan, and then you can connect to multiple APIs through one connection, which is pretty nifty. It's actually also one of the best businesses on the internet. Aggregation is like amazing. So if you need business ideas, look for things you can aggregate, and there's almost guaranteed that you'd find someone who would benefit from this aggregation. So yeah, and then like how we the way that we got started was like any startup that we thought it was easy, and it turned out freaking fucking hard, but we didn't know it back then. And so we by the time we were inside of this, we had already raised capital. We'd already promised a bunch of employees that this is going to be amazing, and then we just had to grind it out. And so 7 years later, the company was big enough and exciting enough to be acquired by a large UK payments company, and then the rest is history. So that's kind of how you get started with fintech.
Roland, that sounds like this meme from South Park. Let's collect all the underpants, profit. So maybe you can give a little bit of what happened in between. How did you stood out? What was the insight? Aggregation makes sense. Why did you do aggregation better than everyone else?
Yeah, so the origin of the company was that my co-founder back then in Nordigan, he came from the lending industry, and we had this insight in the lending industry that there were scoring a customer, figuring out how creditworthy someone is actually very hard, and typically there's a lot of false positives and false negatives that are created in this way. So you approve the wrong people every now and then. You give loans out to the wrong people, and they end up defaulting, or you reject amazing customers and they end up going somewhere else, and you lose business. And so through this insight, we figured, well, the problem in the specific bits is the algorithms to score people. They've been around for freaking forever, but the problem has always been the data. So what we started out with was we realized that all these lending companies in literally all the world were asking people to submit bank statements in paper form, and then what they did, they used pen and colorful markers to understand who how much salary is someone getting, and etc. And so our first product was like a product that just automated the analysis of these bank statements, which was a great product. But then what happened with this thing was that it was like a great product, but for like a tiny market. We had a product market fit for a tiny market, which is the worst thing ever. As a founder, you want to get to a product market fit, unless it's a tiny market. And so that was like a challenge. And then through that challenge, we realized that the better business was, we started like looking into what else can we do. And we built this analytics engine that can analyze transaction information from bank statements. And we found out that there's like a regulation in Europe that opens up bank APIs to which you can get access through, literally the same information. And so instead of just having like an analytics box that can do, data processing, we thought that maybe we should do also this aggregation thing, aggregate the APIs. And so that led us through into a completely new world of like open banking, which is like a subsector of fintech, which then turned out to be actually incredibly valuable. And so, but like the journey literally started, like we had this one idea, we thought like, let's go, like that helped us to get the first customers, the first validation, the first employees, the first capital. Turned out to be a very small market, but then, because we were already in motion, because we already knew what to look for, we were ready to make pivots because we literally had no choice. And through the journey, we made multiple pivots along the way. And maybe I think in the previous company, we must have made 5-6 pivots. I think as you start digging into it, then you just find solutions if you look for them. And so we've, there was a problem that's market was small. We found a solution.
So how big did the Nordigan get before acquisition?
We were 70 people.
And in value of transactions, users, revenue?
Actually, I don't know in terms of volume. The revenue wasn't too big because we had just made another pivot. And then we got acquired when we were just about to do our Series A fundraising. We were in the midst of getting the early traction, and it was picking up very nicely, and that's when we got acquired. So the revenue wasn't too big, but there was really good momentum in terms of what the new product, the bank API aggregator did.
Can you share anything about acquisition price? How much profit?
It's not announced, so I can't share anything about too much. But we have one of our early investors, Andris, who invested. He still talks to me. So
Great deal.
It was a great deal, and good enough for him to pick up his phone when I call him. So that's how much I can share about it.
How did the acquisition happen? I guess they reached out to you. What was the process? Due diligence, how did it all work? If you can describe it briefly.
Yeah, so one thing that blew my mind about how acquisitions work. Actually, I learned this from Raimonds, who's here. Raimonds. Yeah, Raimonds. So Raimonds, literally 5 years before we got acquired, we went to Georgia, and Raimonds on the stage talked about his journey as a founder, going from a startup to an exit. And then he had these brilliant words. He said an acquisition is just another funding round, and literally the same rules apply. You get multiple offers, you get a term sheet, there's a due diligence, there's some agreements, you shake hands, and then work continues. And that's all I knew about an acquisition like that. And so my process back then, we were a scrappy startup. We were based in a region that was completely underfunded, still is. Amazing talent here in Baltics, not enough capital, never will be enough capital comparing to the likes of UK and Silicon Valley. My process as founder was I was talking to everyone. So I was carpet bombing. Every time we did a round, I had at least 300 calls with investors. So my long list was longer. And so the process of getting to a term sheet, my goal as a founder when I was doing fundraising was to get to any term sheet. And it doesn't matter if it's a a big investor, small investor, like a private equity or like an angel investor, a strategic acquirer or like a potential, strategic investor, I wanted my first term sheet. And so through that process, all of that mess, like I managed to find this gem, which is an acquisition offer. And we had multiple other offers as well, including an investment offer. And so that was something to play with. And so that's how basically we arrived there. So through just carpet bombing and literally making sure that there's everyone knew that we were fundraising.
But you were not actively trying to sell the company.
No, so that's the thing. So like the original, so like to give you like a bit of context. So it's 2022, where it's January, and we want to do fundraising for Series A. Like we've now finally have, we think we have product market fit for a big market instead of a tiny market. So and we're like, it's January 2nd, and my deck is amazing, and my projections are sky high, and I'm ready to go out. And then the stock market drops for tech stocks. And if you remember, like maybe in 2022, it was brutal. Like all of the tech stocks got hit because they were missing their targets because of COVID was like there was a lot of hype, there's a lot of demand for tech. And then suddenly 2022, the demand is kind of gone. People are like actually out there living their lives and no longer buying, stuff on the internet. And then we're like, okay, we should, align our expectations. And then war starts. and the war in Ukraine starts, and that was like another hit. And so like we're out there fundraising, talking to these investors and pitching our hearts out. And they're scared because the tech market is down. They're scared because there's a war in Europe. And so in the midst of that, like we have to go, and do it. And so, and end of the day, like what helped was that like we had lots of leads, and by then we had accumulated a pretty long list through which I can create a short list. And then I had many potential investors to reach out to, but like the idea was to do a fundraising. So the idea was to do fundraising, and then to activate the fundraising, I wanted a term sheet from someone, and so like that's how literally it started.
So how long did the acquisition process took?
It's a good question. There was a few months, but these things can take, like it's so random. I've heard stories that are, things happen fast, and I've heard other stories that they can happen really slow. So ours was probably about 3-4 months.
3-4 months, and then acquisition happens. You get acquired by Go Cardless.
Yeah.
That later get acquired themselves, I guess, like a year later or so.
No. Like there was recently an announcement that there's something happening, but it's only just now came out, so it's been a few years, yeah.
So how was the life after acquisition? So you were fundraising, and one day you come into office, say, "Hey guys, we got acquired." What happened next?
So that was fun. I mean, like I still, it's surreal. So like so we're like out there fundraising, and then the due deal, we know that we're going to be, it looks like we're going to be acquired, and so we start bringing in, the Go Cardless team into the office to do the due diligence, and the colleagues, all of our team members, kind of like, who are they? And we're like, don't worry, like it's fine, just carry on. But of course they knew that something was happening, but we couldn't tell them that this is an acquisition. And the thing with acquisitions is they're like, actually no one understands, it's not often talked about how fragile they are. Like things fall apart all the time. And because that they can't fall apart, something they may, the acquirer gets the wrong vibe. Maybe the coffee machine is like off in the office, and they're suddenly like, oh my God, if they can't run the coffee machine, then like this thing must be like,
so maybe you have like a specific story, or like without mentioning names and specifics exactly, obviously, like did the acquisition got stuck at any point, or were some doubts that it's going to happen because of something?
So like I was paranoid the whole time. Like I was paranoid every time I was sending a message to anyone from the acquiring team. I was rereading everything like 17 times. like hence the reason why Buddy Chat is but like I guess like that's me, like but the Buddy Chat exists because like of me just not wanting to have like I want to have like work chat apps for work conversations, and so like I was constantly reading everything that I sent, and I was paranoid the whole time, but like luckily like this specifically the other side in this transaction, they were just so professional and they did it really well, and but like in from what I've heard, like the war stories of how these things go, they could fall, everything can fall apart in very quickly. So which is like an statistical company, and then it's then you're going to exit, unless of course there's like unless of course there's a 90% chance that the acquisition falls through, in which case you still have to grind. and
You didn't have any like issues, I don't know, regarding IP or investors blocking the deal, anything like that?
No, like it was quite.
We can ask Andris to leave.
I'm sure he's gonna tune in into the stream. So it was fine. No, I'm kidding. Like it was from our case, it was really good. Like we had someone. The other side of the transaction is like there were people who've done this before. They knew exactly what's how to treat someone who you acquire. The thing about these acquisitions is that if there's something weird, like you still after the deal closes, you still have to work with those people. So either side can't be too pushy, and so that's helpful in the case like that. So our case was like quite smooth, I have to say. But like from a startup, we're as a startup, and if you're being acquired, you're at a total disadvantage, and you really have to hope that the other side is nice. And then there's no really alternative than hoping. Like it's when you sign the term sheet. There is really nothing else you can do. You just have to hope that things are going to turn out good, and do your best to prepare for the worst. And so, there's no alternatives. You can't you can't really walk away.
All right, and then you joined GoCardless, but after a while you decided to leave and start a new startup. How did you come up with that decision?
Yeah, as a founder, which I'm sure you've also felt this way. It's not easy to be an employee. It's I mean, I can pretend sometimes, and I can pretend to be a really good employee, but it's a role that I have to play, and it takes a lot of energy. And founders are known to be unemployable. Founders are known to be like really bad employees eventually. So before anyone found out that I was like a really bad employee, but before I kind of sort of like the role, my acting career kind of ended, I decided maybe I should just go and start something on a good note. And so I mean like literally, so it's like the job of a CEO of an acquired startup is to make sure that first like that the acquisition is successful. Like that's once you're being acquired, you promise a bunch of stuff to everyone, to your team, to the acquirers, and you kind of have to deliver. And so it's like and what it feels like to me is like you people say acquisition is acquisition is kind of like the finish line of a marathon, but then no one talks about like the walk home. So you run a marathon, and then you have imagine if you have to have to walk home for like another 15 kilometers with like all the bruises and all the emotional sort of baggage that you carry along. So that's what it kind of like feels like. So you just you still have to get the ship and make sure that like the integration works, like make sure that the teams are aligned. There's going to be culture clashes that you need to think about. So you think about them all the time, and you make sure that everything's aligned. And so that it's like it's kind of like a lot of work. But once that work is done, there's nothing really to do for a startup CEO. And so like I literally the moment I found out that my job is kind of still is kind of done. I thought it's like a good moment to do something.
And now we have you here sharing your insights and working on Birdie Chat, right? Full circle. By the way, if at any point you want me to come in and just go emotional damage, just nod at me. I'll do that for you. So and now you've been working on BADiChat for like a year, right? And you recently became one of the first partners of WhatsApp of BADiChat. Can you tell anything else about your traction or achievements with BADiChat?
Yeah, so BADiChat is so like what the app is like. It's kind of like feels like it's as easy to use as the likes of WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal. So like it's very familiar to people who've used chat apps before. But we're building a lot of productivity features in that people have been missing for years. And but what BADiChat still is, it's still pre-launch. We're still testing it. We have a few hundred test users at the moment. And then more than 12,000 people on the waitlist at the moment, which is pretty cool. And so like it's been really interesting to build right now. Like 2025 is kind of like an eye-opening year for me. A lot of things have changed in terms of like product development. So there is you can now use AI to move faster. But it's like a weird tool. You can use it to move faster, but you can't trust it. It's like a toxic relationship with AI. So have like now you have like a toxic artificial colleague to manage, which is like okay, I kind of get it, but like it's you need to sort of manage around it.
And you have not announced any funding rounds yet.
Yeah, we've raised a bunch of capital. We haven't announced the funding yet.
So you already mentioned that there is lack of capital in our region. So let's try to make some controversy, because your investors were saying that startups should have more ambition. So maybe there should be more investors, or investors should have more ambition. Yes, there is not enough capital. That I strongly believe. But also, there are a lot of super talented people. They're not founding companies. And I get it. Like there is so many job opportunities out there. Like you can get a lot of money by working in a big tech company. There's it is. You should say something why they should start a startup.
And so many reasons to not want to start a startup. It is hard. It's gonna take a lot of time. And then when you think you're going to be acquired, there's only a 10% chance that you will. So lots of reasons to not. I recently, I think a few weeks ago, there was like this meme traveling on the internet that said like right now it feels like we're living in an age of guaranteed mediocrities, as in like if you work if you find a job, then you're quite likely to be guaranteed that like your life is going to be average in a good way. You'll get your Netflix, you'll be able to pay your bills, it'll be fine. Maybe we'll get like basic income eventually, and then things will be even nicer and cushier. But then like the journey of starting a startup, it's like, a really, really small chance of doing something incredible, making an impact, finding your calling, and all those things. And so I feel like we have a shortage of capital, but what we really have is like a big shortage of people that are really willing to make a just start to take the risk of getting out of this guaranteed mediocrity and this cushiness and trying to build something. And that you can't really force anyone into this. Also, you can't even pull them in. Like I've been talking about, I'm telling founders to go and start a startup forever. Like I have 50 friends that I've talked into building startup, and then like only 5 have actually been like, yeah, fine, I'll try. But I just really, I hope that we'll all I have left is like hope that people will actually start to do it. So
my advice is just make new friends who are already startup founders. Problem solved.
Well, of course, like but we don't have enough of them. So I love my startup friends. I want more of them. So
Well,
I'm going out to the regular friends to turn them into startup friends.
You're in the right place. There's a bunch of founders here. Some of the first-time founders. What would be your advice? One, two, maybe let's say 3 tips. Looking back, how can you advise them to be more, build the startup in the right way so they will be successful and get acquired one day or reach an IPO or become profitable, whatever?
Yeah, my number one advice is find a fantastic co-founder. In my experience, like that's like 90% of success. And if you find the right co-founder, if you find someone who you just like, you're ready to spend like 10 years of your life with at least, then you'll figure something out. Like there is people who are energetic, people who are passionate, people who promise a lot of things to investors and then need to deliver. So people who are kind of forced to come up with solutions. They eventually, I believe, they come up with solutions, but then there needs to be a team. I really respect people who are solo founders. I also think it's like so hard to be a solo founder. So I could never do it. My previous company, we were like 2 co-founders in BADiDeas. We're 2 co-founders, it makes life so easier. So find a great co-founder. And then the other idea is the previous panel, Raimonds, Egita, Andris all talked about like level of ambition. I think it's when I was a first-time founder, I was constantly being told, well, your ambition level is too low. I was being told like constantly, and what I recently found out, another way to think about it is that I'm telling the wrong story, and it's all about storytelling. So like raising the first money is all about the story that you tell. And so instead of thinking about like level of ambition of like, how far can you build the product, rather think about like, what's the story that you can come up with that makes sense for someone to want to invest in and makes sense for you to be ready to underwrite that you'll build this out. Like, what's the craziest story you can come up with? And so when I think about it as like a story writing problem or like storytelling problem, well, then it kind of becomes easier because ambition is kind of, I don't know, I think it's a bit loaded, but then a story is kind of nice and cute. Like we come up with stories all the time. Like I'm here telling a story about birdie chats, but then I come home and like I tell like story to my kid when he falls asleep, and like we tell stories all the time, and we're very used to storytelling. But ambition, I don't think we're like that used to it. So instead of trying to solve that, I'm choosing another problem to solve, which is a storytelling, and then like it becomes a somewhat of an easier problem for me. So get a great co-founder, come up with like a really cool story, and you're like halfway there.
How do you get a great co-founder, or how do you understand that you have a great co-founder?
Ooh, how do you know you find a good spouse?
I am not married. You're looking at wrong guy.
It's fair enough.
Tell me. Are you married?
I'm married.
Tell me, bro.
I'm married for 10 years. So, and all I can say is I have no idea. I think, there's this investor, Charlie Munger, some of you have heard, like he has this wonderful book called Poor Charlie's Almanac, when he talks about whenever you can't come up with like an answer, try to think of what is the inverse problem to solve. So instead of thinking what's the how do you find a great co-founder, maybe let's think of all the ways that how you find a shitty co-founder. And try to avoid that. And so like a shitty co-founder is someone you can't trust. A shitty co-founder is someone with whom you're maybe arguing already, how should you split the equity in the company. A shitty co-founder is someone you can't split the workloads shitty co-founder is someone you feel like they're not pulling their weight into a company, like you're working more than they are, you're contributing more than they are, and so it doesn't feel fair. So that's like step one, avoid anything that you think is like shit relationship and things that would qualify as not a great co-founder. So that'd be step one, I think. Step two is any company needs at least two roles. There needs to be a CEO and a CTO, as any tech company that is. There are exceptions, but generally most of the jobs to be done in a tech company fall into a build job and a sell job. And then the CEO is doing the selling, and then the CTO is doing the building. And so you have, find someone who's complementary. If you can do the building, find someone who's a great seller. And if you can do the selling, find someone who's a great builder. If you can kind of do both, and maybe find someone who is kind of, on a similar level, but like complementary. So step one, find a way to avoid all of the things that would characterize a co-founder as a toxic one. And then like step two is find someone who's complementary to your skill set in terms of like either building or selling.
Got it. So we finished the panel of New Year's resolutions for founders. What would be your New Year's resolution for Lithuanian and Latvian founders to be more successful, more ambitious, or have better stories and find better co-founders?
I'm incredibly impressed by the Lithuanian startup ecosystem, to be honest, and I'm actually quite jealous because you guys are rocking it at the moment. So my resolution is that you just keep going and keep making Latvians even more jealous. And it's working, by the way. Like we are like so jealous, you've no idea. So just keep doing what you do. And then like Latvians just like keep the fuck up. let's come on. It's not like we're that different. We're equally smart, equally ambitious, whatever that means. But then I think we can do it. Like there's no laws of physics that forbid us from greatness, and we have amazing examples. There's Tesla, there's Vinted in Lithuania, there's Printful, there's Printify in Latvia. Like there's great companies being built by people very similar to you and I here. So we can freaking do it. So let's just do it. So just you keep going, and we'll catch up, and then we'll reach greatness.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Roman.
Thank you.
And again, BADideas and TechChill and BADideas.fund and Outlast.fund are sponsoring a drink. So let's grab some drinks, guys. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who was watching.
Where else are we going? Like,